up, swashbucklers? You're listening to Under the Crossbones, episode number 178. My name is Phil Johnson. I'm your host for the show and the ship's royal taste tester. Here each and every week for you. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for telling your friends and visiting sponsors and sending donations and all that cool stuff that you do that helps me keep the old boat afloat. Much appreciated. So for episode number 178, fun fact about the number 178. 178 is the number of points Team LeBron scored last night in the NBA All-Star game, if that's your thing. Yeah, it was 178 to 134, I think. I don't know. I wasn't really watching. My girlfriend's the baseball. I don't even know what sport it is. My girlfriend's the basketball fan in the house, and she sits there hooting and hollering, and I was looking at an app to track movies I want to see. So that's where we are in our house. Yeah. So she had a great time. But anyway, yeah, 178 was the winning score. So there you go. Show notes for this episode, of course, will be at underthecrossbones.com/178. Make sure you come join us over on the Facebook group, facebook.com/underthecrossbones. On Twitter, we're at Under Crossbones, and make sure you're subscribed. Hit that little subscribe button in whatever you're listening to this on right now. Just click the subscribe button, and you can get each new episode every week, Tuesday morning, as soon as it comes out. So there you go. My guest on the show today, this is a really cool episode, even more so than it may seem off the top. So Marc Paquien is my guest today, and he's the creator of a board game called Treasure Island. And he's going to explain how the game works and all that kind of stuff. But his creation process for the game, I think, has some really interesting lessons in it, and how he got to where he is. This is his second board game that he's created. There's some good talk in here about letting the people around you be a good influence on you and making sure that the people around you are a good influence on you. We talk about why board games are having such a heyday right now in this time of video games and VR and all this super high-tech stuff. Why is it that people still want to, roll dice and move little plastic pieces around? We're going to talk about creating board games that evoke an emotion, more so than just act as a game. So there's a lot of really cool stuff in our talk that I think you're going to enjoy. So Marc Paquien is coming up in just a second. Of course, there'll be links to the games in the show notes. If you go to show notes, there'll be links to Treasure Island and his first game called Yamatai. That'll all be there. We're going to have pictures of the prototype that we talk about in there. So lots of cool stuff. Make sure you go there. I will be doing gigs this week. Yeah, I had just one last week, did a Valentine's Day gig, made some money, played for some old white people in a restaurant. Some of them were into it, some of them not so much, but overall, pretty good. But this week, the February the 19th, that's today, if you're listening to this, the day it comes out, I'll be at the Vinyl Room in Burlingame, California. And I haven't played Burlingame in years. We used to play there all the time with my band. Different venue, but for some reason, we always ended up in Burlingame. Anyway, Vinyl Room, Burlingame, February 19th. February 21st, I'll be at the Blue Lagoon in Santa Cruz, California. February 22nd, I'll be at the Setup at the Beer Basement in San Francisco, California. That is always a great show. February 23rd, I'll be at Comedy Oakland in Oakland, California. March 1st, I'll be at Cabana del Sol in Manteca, California. That's my birthday show, you guys. Yeah. My birthday's actually on the 2nd, but I'm not doing anything on my birthday. Not working anyway. So March 1st is my birthday show at Cabana del Sol in Manteca, California, if you want to join us for that. I may even sing my birthday song to me during the show, and it's not a nice birthday song. March 5th, I'll be at Cheroot Lounge in Modesto, California, another great show. And March 7th, at the Whiskey Barrel Saloon in Stockton, California, that's going to be an all-music show. Comedy music. It's a comedy music show. So I will be doing mostly a full set of just comedy music that night, no stand-up. So we'll see how that goes, and if my voice can sing for that long anymore. We'll find out. We are sponsored today by Pirata Clothing. Yeah, their brand new website is a gosh darn pirate utopia of shirts, hats, clothing, swimwear, and more, all steeped in the lore of pirates. All right, look, I don't want to use words that are too strong. I don't want to have to mark this episode as explicit just because I'm describing their clothing company correctly. But let me just use this word, all right? Their new website is a flippin' pirate utopia. Flippin', that's right. I said it. It's a flippin' utopia of shirts, hats, clothing, swimwear, all steeped in the lore of pirates and treasure. Perfect for your next Caribbean cruise or trip to the Keys. And man, it's cold. I know you want to go to the Keys right now, right? Unless you're already in the Keys, in which case you're all laughing at the rest of us where it's cold. And they add new gear weekly, new clothes, new stuff. Go check it out at pirataclothing.com. You know how to spell pirata. pirataclothing.com. Be sure to click the ship's wheel on the website to get in on Blackbeard's treasure hunt. Go get yourself some stuff now at pirataclothing.com. Maybe you got a group of people, you need like some matching cool stuff for your crew. They can help you take care of that. Just call them up, go 1-877-607-LOOT. That is 1-877-607-LOOT. And they will hook you up with stuff for your crew. That's pirataclothing.com. If you're enjoying the show, and I hope you are, you want to support the show financially or passively or in some way. Now, the best thing you can do always is tell somebody that you know who likes pirates and pirate stuff to listen to the show if they're not listening to it yet. But you can also go to underthecrossbones.com/support. Right there, there's a little PayPal box. You can drop a donation in there. You can hear my laptop going off. I got dingy dings happening in the background here. You can put a donation in the PayPal box there. If you're just buying yourself stuff, click that Amazon banner on the support page. You click that Amazon banner, you go to Amazon, you buy yourself something nice. Amazon kicks me back a few shekels, and that helps out. It doesn't cost you anything extra, except one extra little mouse click right there. If you want to be a sponsor of the show, like Pirata Clothing or Pirate Radio, The Treasure Coast, or any of the other great folks we've had, there's also information for that there. Again, underthecrossbones.com/support. All right, we're going to talk some board games here, and we're going to talk board game design. Whether or not you're a board game fan, because I'm not super a board game guy at all, but whether or not you're a board game fan, this is an interesting talk about the creative process and the process of getting something accomplished that you really want to get accomplished. All right, so let's get into it. This is my talk with Marc Paquien. Let's talk some Treasure Island here. So your new game is called Treasure Island. It's out on Matago Games. And tell me a little bit about the game and the premise of the game first, for those who haven't played it yet.
Okay. The very beginning was that I at the moment when the game came up, I was working on my first game, which is called Yamatai.
Uh-huh.
And I already had a lot of work with this game, so I didn't really expect or really want to develop another game at this time, but Treasure Island concept came to me and I couldn't stop it. So, and also it was interesting. So yes, that was quite unexpected. And in fact, I wanted a very open and very free game.
Uh-huh.
So I had this concept that I wanted something, a board, because I like boards in games, and I wanted a board, but with a very big freedom. So I didn't want any square or any I wanted something continuous.
Sure.
And very, very fast, very, very fast. The concept of a treasure hunt came, but it was just very blur, and I didn't have any mechanics, and I was the first difficulty that I had was that if you play a treasure hunt, one of the player will know where the treasure is, and for him the game would be very boring because it just has to answer questions, and it's not interesting for him. So I had this little concept and this little problem in my head for 2 or 3 months.
Okay.
And the idea that the guy who hide the treasure must hide the treasure from the others, but has to give hints. He has a limited choice of hints, and he has to pick one and give this hint. Since I got this idea, then the game concept was very fastly close to today's final result.
And so the premise of the game is one of the players plays Long John Silver, right?
That's right, yeah. And
that player is actually responsible for, quote unquote, hiding the treasure somewhere on the board where the other players don't know, right?
That's right.
Okay.
At the very beginning, I didn't started with Treasure Island as an inspiration, but during the development process, I knew that it was a treasure hunt, and I talked with my publisher Matago, and I phoned him, and I told him I think I found which team we should use for the game, and he told me too, and we had the same idea at the same moment, so that there was no discussion about the team for the game.
Oh, that makes it nice. That definitely makes it nice. So is that a common way for a game like this to sort of originally be visualized, where you go, I just can kind of see this vague, gauzy picture of a real open board. I kind of want this to happen. And then you just develop all the mechanics from there?
I think it really depends on the designer and also on the game. You know, on my first game, that was quite the same. But I think other designers don't necessarily work with this very blur concept. In my process, I start with a prototype very late, and I want first. I'm starting from this. I'm working on my third game at the moment, and that was quite the same process. And with my first game also, so that's for me that's very characteristics. But other designers could work. They could find like a mathematical trick or like a very concrete mechanisms already, and then they can build around this mechanism, and then bring the team or start from the team. From the sim, sorry. But in my case, this is this very blur concept every time. And often this blur concept is around the game that I like, but I want to make this game in a different way.
Okay. Was there a particular game that was an inspiration from that angle?
For this one, it's maybe you know, because it's a very famous game, the game Dixit.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm not familiar with it, but I think I've heard the name.
Yeah, this is a game where it has nothing in common with Treasure Island, but it's a game where you got picture in your hand, and you must pick one of this picture, say something, and try to be the link between what you said and the picture must not be too obvious.
Okay.
But there's still there is a link, and this is very, very open. There is like it's based on your interpretation, and so it's I wanted to have something also very open, but still in this game the board was missing for me. So I wanted something open with a board, and then the open thing with the board was that you could hide your treasure anywhere. So in Treasure Island, you just put an X on a big map. There is no nothing on the board except this island map, and I think that's the strong difference between Treasure Island and other games.
Okay,
I think it's the first game that provided this kind of very open choice for treasure location.
Okay, interesting, and it's a beautiful board. The art on across the entire game is absolutely fantastic, and I want to talk a little more about that later. But so you were talking about how your basic vision was one player is hiding this treasure, and the other ones have to find out where it is, basically by asking questions, which seems like first of all a game that doesn't need a game almost. You could play that game without a board or without cards or figures or any of that kind of stuff as just sort of a mental exercise. What kind of iterations did the game go through to design all the little cards and the compass that gets used? And how did you start adding in those details to make it more of a game?
A very good question. At the beginning, there was very basic clues, very simple clues. And I needed, in fact, when you give a clue, basically you can say the treasure is north or south, and then the translation of this on the board is you draw a line and you remove something below or upper the line. So this is interesting, but once you've done that, the next clue cannot be of the same kind, because in this case, Long John Silver, he doesn't want you to find the treasure, so he will tell you 2 times, 3 times that the treasure is not north of this guy, and you won't get more information, and it's very boring.
Okay.
So so one of the first work was to think of like thematic clues, but that would generate different shapes as lines.
Okay.
Different from lines. And in the end, I've been through, I don't know, maybe 25 different kind of clues. Some of them were a little bit too complicated. Some of them were a little bit too hard for Long John to give, because it would remove too much board surface, or the opposite, not enough. So after a long work on these clues, now the game has 18 completely different clues. I can give you examples, but some of the clue is that Long John asks each pirate. So in the game, we call pirates the pirates which are playing against Long John, trying to find this treasure.
Okay.
So I think of this clue, which is very unusual, where each pirate will ask a question to Long John, where the answer should be yes or no. And it could be any question. So that's very funny. You could ask whether he did already lie before, or did I am closer to the treasure, or anything you want.
Okay.
So this is a very unexpected clue. And there are also this clue based on the drawing on the board. For example, the treasure is not in the forest, or is not in a building. 18 very, very different clues. That was the engine for the game. I needed to find these different clues to make an interesting engine for the game.
Okay. So then you have all the other things with the compass, which drawing on the game board is a unique thing. I'm not a super like game player myself, but when I was a kid, if you drew on the game board, that was a giant no-no, and you were going to get smacked by mom. So is that something that occurs a lot in games now, or is that something that's kind of unique to this one?
It's not unique, but there are very, very few games using pencil where you draw on the board. There is a game which is called Looney Quest, where you can write on the board, but it's absolutely not in the same way. And I think it's not as thematic as in this one. In this one, it's when people play the game, you really feel like a pirate writing on your map,
right?
And you said that when you're a child, you're not allowed to do this,
right?
But in this game, you have different kind of fun when you play, and one of this kind of fun is really drawing on the board like a pirate, using the tools, the caliper, the rules. It's really part of the game to use these tools, and Madagot has made an awesome work with the tools. There are also this. I think in English it's compass, like where you know where north and south and east is. I think it's compass, and they are in plastic, so you can see through, and you can adjust them on the map, seeing through, but still there are painting on them. So they are practical and at the same time very thematic. So in my prototype, I got this plastic idea of something like you can see through with small decorations, but the final results is absolutely amazing.
Yeah, it's great looking stuff. And I can picture, everybody kind of huddled around as if it were a map, drawn with the compass and figuring out where stuff is. And I think that's just as an imaginative visual for people who haven't played the game yet, I think is a really cool way to look at it. So I want to hear a little bit about the process. I imagine when you start a process like this, you're sitting down with a pen and paper and just sketching things out to see where it goes. At what point do you take that to your publisher and go, I've got a game idea? How early in the process does that happen?
Yeah, so you remember I said that I had this vague concept, and then I got the idea that Long John would, or let's say the treasure hider would have a specific way of playing, and from this moment I had a prototype that was playable less than 3 or 4 weeks later.
Okay,
so it was very, very fast when I got this first idea, and 1 month later I've shown the prototype to the publisher, and he directly gave me a contract. He wanted, and I've shown this concept to 4 different publishers, and 3 of them wanted to publish directly the game, and the 4th wanted to think about it. But let's say that I was very lucky because almost all of them wanted to publish the game. So
that's great. What does that prototype look like that you take to them?
If you want, I can send you a picture later. But I picked a map of a city that you can find on internet that was used for a role play game around piracy or things like this. And the funny thing is that I also picked some art for the game, and I picked some art from the final illustrator. But from other projects, I've been looking on internet for some picture. And I knew this. Vincent Dutré is really well known in game because he's one of the most appreciated illustrator for games, and I found some picture from him which was great. So my prototype was already using some of his art before I even knew that the game exists. Yes.
Oh, interesting. That was probably a good selling point when you tried to bring him on board too.
Yeah, that's right. Everybody seeing the game say, wow. And also a fun fact about the material and prototype evolution is that instead of the caliper on my first prototype, I was just using a small string with a pencil, and that was it. So you could draw circles, but it was not very practical. So the caliper is much much cooler and easier to use. So that's really a big improvement for the game.
Okay, interesting. So so it goes to the publisher pretty early in the process, and then they start. I'm sure there's a lot of back and forth developing and fine tuning. At what point do you start having groups of people play test the game?
Very, very early. As I mentioned, 1 month after I got the idea, I got a prototype, and I went to my local club for board games. I am a member of a board game club, which is called Annecy Ludique, by the way. It's a very small, very small club, and I 3 people wanted to try the game, and the first game, usually when it's very first test for a prototype, 90% of the time you say, oh my God, there is so much work. And in this particular case, everybody said, wow, it's very cool. And now I knew that I got a great potential and potentially a really interesting game. So that was also very motivating.
Oh, that's great. That's the review you want. Yeah, this is almost done. You're like, yes.
Yeah. But in fact, this is very funny with board games, because once you have reached this point, as in many jobs or in many business, you still have 90% of the work to do.
Sure.
That's the 10%, the last 10%, which are the asking for the more energy.
Oh, yes. Yeah, absolutely. Tell me a little bit about your background. This is your second game. Your first one, as we discussed earlier, was called Yamatai.
Yep.
And what is your background that led you into game design in the first place?
I enjoyed game when I was a student, but I at that time I never thought I could or I would design games. And then I've made studies where I didn't have any time to play or to spend time on board games. And after this, when I started to work, I once again I got more free time. So and at the same time, let's call them modern board games were developing. So I've started to play again, and I met someone which actually is one of my best friends today, which is called Cédric Millet. And this guy, we share this passion for board games. And at some point, he told me, I want to design games. I want to design board games. So, and he told me that. I said, yes, me too, I want. But when he told me that, he started to do so. But really, with much energy and prototypes, and he spent time play testing. It was crazy. And I talked to myself, my friend has a very big job. He has a big responsibility in a big company, and he managed to do so. So I have no excuse not to be able to do so also. So I've seen him making this, and I started also to work on this game concept, which 4 or 5 years later became Yamatai. The development process for Yamatai was 5 years.
Interesting. Yeah, it's always interesting to have that person around you. I mean, they always say you're the sort of the product of the 5 people you hang out with most. And when you have that person there who's doing way more than you are, it really does kind of kick you in the butt and go, I should do that.
And you know that you have time, but it's just a matter of choice. And instead of watching TV or doing nothing or surfing the web, you just now I have in my free time I want to spend 5-6 hours per week on game design. And you can go on in this way.
Every time somebody I have people, they'll be like, oh my God, how do you do so many things? You're always busy. You're always doing something. And I say, you have no idea what my friends are doing. My friends are doing way more than I am. They're the ones that make me feel lazy. Yeah.
We are in the same position at the moment.
Yep. So you said it was a 5-year development time on that first game there. How easy was that one to sell to a publisher?
I've been helped because my first game, I've made it. We were 2 designers on this first game, so I worked with a very famous designer, which is called Bruno Catala, and we are living very close. We are not neighbor, but he's 1 hour from my house. So I think in the US, it's like the next door for you. In France, we consider it. It's a little bit more for us, but still, it was easy to work together. And Bruno Catala can easily show prototypes to any publisher because he knows everybody and everybody knows him. So when he knocks a door and says, "I have something which may interest you," then the publisher will listen to him. So that was way more easy to, let's say, it took us almost 2 years, I think, to get the contract for the first game. But, this game was published by Days of Wonder, which is a very, very big and famous and very good company. So we've been waiting for them. We knew that Bruno told me we can make this game with Days of Wonder. So that's worth waiting and being patient. And that's why we've been patient. And in the end, Bruno was right. And Days of Wonder wanted to make the game. So that was really, for me, it was incredible that my first game will be published by Days of Wonder with Bruno Catala. It was unbelievable for me.
Yeah. Now, was he somebody that you knew before, or did you meet him in the process of looking for a way into the game industry?
I met him during the process. I started alone on Yamatai, and I knew that we were close, and I met him and explained him where were my problems in the game development. And so we didn't start to work together like from how can I say I cannot say a point where we started to work together. It was a vague process where we discussed, and then we started to work a little, and then at some point I shared the prototype, and then we work on the prototype, and at the end of the project, Bruno was more involved than me. So that was that was some kind of a cross, or I don't even find my words in French, so I don't know how I could find in English.
That one I can't help you with. Yeah, that's really interesting. So, and that sort of speaks to the generosity of Bruno as well, that he was able to give you some of that time at the beginning to even look at what you were doing.
Yeah, he's a really great guy, and he always give you, even if he is not a co-designer, he will give you for Treasure Island. He gave me a lot of advices, and he has a very big experience in this field, and he is 90% of the time he's right, and I'm carefully listening to him. I say 90%, not 100%, because I wanted something special for Treasure Island. So I always want to be able to say, no, this I don't want, because that's not what I want for this game. For this game, I wanted something very open, where you have the feeling that you can do anything on this island. You feel a little bit lost at the beginning, and then the pressure is growing. And these feelings are very, very important for me. And at the same time, there is this innovative mechanism where you can write on the board. But I wanted that the rest of the game, even if it's a little bit more conventional, I wanted this part to be consistent with the team and the origin, or the special mechanic of riding on the board and searching for this treasure. And I'm happy because that's the feedback I got today. People tell me that they really feel like they're experiencing this treasure hunt, and that's my best reward for this game, is that people I have really feedbacks that people feel they've been in an epic treasure hunt. Yes, that's cool.
Nice. That's great. The board game industry seems to have exploded in the last 10 years or so. Somehow at the same time as video games and augmented reality and virtual reality and all that kind of stuff, all the very high tech stuff, at the same time we have board games, which are decidedly low tech. And it kind of reminds me of music fans going back to vinyl. And there's a primitivism about it for some, for lack of a better word there. But what do you think it is about board games that keeps people away from their technology for an hour and interested in little plastic pieces and a board game?
I think your analysis is very good. That there is this nostalgic, or maybe not even. It's not the only reason, because some young people, which has always new computer and so on, are interested in board games. So that could not be the only reason. But I think
Sure.
I think you're right with this reason. The other reason, I don't know. I think probably because also the quality of the board games is becoming crazy. I mean, some you want to play some games just because of the drawings. Sometimes they are even maybe sometimes more beautiful than comics.
Okay.
Sometimes you buy I think 10 years ago, nobody would buy a board game because the picture is beautiful.
Yeah.
I think that today, if you see the Treasure Island cover, you say, "Wow, it's like a comic cover."
Yeah.
I mean,
The art is fantastic.
Yes, the art and also the components. I mean the quality of the games, the quality of the components, the quality of the drawings, the quality of the rules, of the gameplay, of the game experience is really improving, I think. So yes, probably it's one reason for this. Also, people like they like to share time, but you can share time with video games, so it's not the only reason. But
so I know you've got the French version of the game. There's an English version of the game, and I saw I think Polish and Korean are coming out in sometime this year.
There is a Polish. You're right. I think there is Japanese.
Oh, okay.
German. I think also Italian version will come.
Oh,
I'm not sure if it's official, but let's say it's a scoop.
Nice.
Yes. Yeah. Korean. Yes. So the game is working well. So, yes.
Neat.
In France, the first print of the game has lasted something like 2 months and then was sold out. So yes,
Wow.
It's really cool. Yeah, it's really.
That's
cool.
Great. That's great.
Yeah.
So where is a good place for people to pick up the game?
In the US, I really don't know. It's Asmodee who is in charge of US distribution. So
Okay.
it's a big company. So I think it should be widely available. But I cannot give you more details about this. Sorry.
Okay, no problem. I'll do a little digging myself. I'll put a link in the show notes for it.
Okay.
So what's your next project looking like? You said you're already starting into your next game.
Yeah. My next project is a game completely different from the two first games.
Okay.
It's like a very short game, very fun game, and very fast game. Of observation and very fast. So it's like a game where you are constantly under pressure because you must go very fast.
Okay.
But at the same time, if you're taking the wrong decision, then you could lose a lot of points. So
I see.
Yeah, it's a very simple game. It will be mainly a deck of something like 70 or 80 cards.
Okay.
You can play from 2 to 7 or maybe 8 players. And I think play will last 5 or 10 minutes. So it's very fast.
Yeah. Very fast.
The rules are explained in 2 minutes, and then you play.
Oh.
And yes, it's also very a unique feeling when you play it. That's what I'd like to make each time I bring a new game. I'd like to bring a new feeling. So in this one, that's this opposition between constantly under pressure, but you cannot go too fast, but because you could make a wrong decision.
Okay. Oh, that sounds fascinating. I really like that your thought behind it isn't necessarily you're not thinking about the game mechanics first. You're thinking about evoking an emotion,
Yes.
your storytelling, that part of it is very artistic and fascinates me as an artist in everything else that I do. But that's really great, man.
I think that's because, as a job, I am an engineer, so I have to be very square. I'm not sure about.
Yeah, square makes sense. Yeah.
Okay. And rigorous. Yes.
Sure. Yep.
Okay. And so that's why when I design games, I want to experience something else. And yes, for me, I make the exact opposite of what I made in my everyday work at the beginning.
Makes sense.
For the very beginning, for the concept, for the first idea, and then for the game development, the more mathematics skills or more scientific side is very helpful.
Sure, yeah, I'll bet.
Because you can save time and you can go faster.
Oh, that's fantastic, man. Well, Marc, this has been super fun. I'm glad we got a chance to do this.
Yeah, me too. I'm very happy that we talked together, and I hope your pirate interests could experience this treasure hunt.
I hope so too. Everybody go get it. All right. Thanks a lot, Marc.
You're welcome.
And there it is, friends. That is my talk with Marc Paquien about his game, Treasure Island. There will be links to the game because, like Marc said, he doesn't really have a website or anything. So there will be links to the game, both games on Amazon in the show notes that you can pick up for Treasure Island and for his first game, Yamate. Spacing on the name there for a second. And I'll also have the photograph of the prototype of that game because I think that's really cool to look at. That'll also be the show notes. He did send me that. And if you want to find out more about what Marc is doing, go to your Google or your favorite search engine and put Marc Paquien in there. His last name is spelled Paquien. And if you look at your podcast player, I'm sure his name is somewhere in the show notes there. You'll be able to see it. If you want to jump in, if you wanted to jump in on that conversation, you had something you wanted to say about it, come on over to Facebook, facebook.com/underthecrossbones. Leave us a comment, question, anything you would like to add to the conversation is okay by me. And of course, all those show notes for this episode will be at underthecrossbones.com/178. We're sponsored today Of course, by Pirate Radio, the Treasure Coast, you may be listening there right now. WKKC-DB, playing the best music of today's hits and yesterday's classics. And Pirate Radio Talk, playing the best pirate shows, including Under the Crossbones, 24/7, all commercial free. To listen, just go to Pirate Radio, the Treasure Coast, or go to your favorite app store and get the Pirate Radio, the Treasure Coast, the Pirate Radio WKKC-DB app. Those are the music stations. For the talk stations, go to pirateradiotc.com or pick up the Pirate Radio Talk app in your favorite app store. Or you can just scream at your Alexa or Google device to play it for you in the way that you do those things, and it will play it for you. Magic, like technology magic that will come back to haunt us one day. All brought to you by iTreasure Radio, the very best digital media from independently owned stations at iTreasureRadio.com. I got an ebook for you. If you'd like that, Alexander Exquemlin's Pirates of Panama or Buccaneers of America, whichever title you prefer, because it's out there under both. This is a book that was originally published in 1678. Alexander Exquemlin was a doctor who ended up on pirate ships and wrote about his first-hand adventures on said ships. And that is the book that I've got for you, a nice little ebook version of it. To get that, just go to underthecrossbones.com, click on the free ebook button, and you can download it right there. Don't do the texty phony thing that you might have heard in previous episodes. That doesn't work anymore. The company went. And I haven't found another option I like yet for it. So just go to underthecrossbones.com, click the free ebook button, and you can pick it up right there. And that is our show for today. Thank you once again for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed that talk with Marc Paquien. Again, if you want to find out more about what he's up to, just stick his name in Google. We'll have links to the games and the photo of the prototype game, all that stuff in the show notes at underthecrossbones.com/178. Next week, we're going to switch it up a little bit. That's a pun. You didn't even know. Why? Because we're going to talk to Jess Doby of Switch Sales. Yeah, switch it up. Stop it. Yeah, we're going to talk about sail making next week. Yeah, that's a new one. We have not talked about sail making. And that's going to be fun. So we're going to talk to Jess Doby of Switch Sales next week. And until then, be good to each other. All right? See you next time.